Hi everyone, this is Gulab here, and I'm beginning a series on the Hollow Earth. And to begin with, I just want to give my perspective about it, and then I'm going to be sharing with you the writings of the Sims theory of concentric spheres demonstrate that the Earth is hollow, habitable within, and widely open about the poles. This is compiled by Americus Sims from the writings of his father, Captain John Cleves Sims, and published at Louisville, Kentucky, printed by Bradley and Gilbert in 1878. So a very long time ago. So let me begin by sharing some interesting thoughts about the Hollow Earth. And I've always, ever since discovering the Hollow Earth, I've always believed in the Hollow Earth. I believe that we are being lied to on many levels about many different things, but that when it comes to the Earth and the geography of the Earth and the structure of the Earth, that is something we are seriously being lied to about. And the reason why it's being kept undercover. See, the government knows the truth of these things, but they need to keep it undercover because of the fact that there's an internal civilization living within. They can't let people know this because if they were to acknowledge an internal civilization, it would drastically change everything. Because it would even change things like the theory of evolution and Darwin's theory and all kinds of stuff because of the fact that the beings that live inside the earth live a very long lifespan and they're very tall in stature. And there's just like so many things that would contradict what they want us to believe about science. And they don't want to lose control over the people either. This is also a factor. It's about controlling the human population with mind control variables, and they use religion a lot for this mind control, and this goes beyond their religions of the Abrahamic religions of Christianity and of Catholicism, Judaism, and Islam. The understanding of the hollow earth goes up and beyond what those religions are teaching people. And so they can't have that conflict because the religion is a huge controlling factor on earth. It's the number one, in fact, the number one controlling factor of the human population to keep everybody mind controlled into false beliefs is religion. And I'm not saying all religion is like this, but the Abrahamic religions are. So we're going to talk about the hollow earth, and one thing that is very notably significant about the proofs of the hollow earth is the fact that wild animals and birds migrate north in the winter. That's right, north. And not only that Native American tribes living in the northern region would say that there's many, many peoples north of here, but not south. When some explorers met them and the explorers explained, yes, we come from the south, they said, oh no, that's impossible. Peoples are from the north. Because they understood that there's this ring of ice towards the south from them, that it's impossible to live, they think. So these people more north, well, that's the internal civilization where beings, human beings and animals, are coming in and out of the polar openings. And so wildlife flying in the northern opening, so like when winter comes, there's going to be all kinds of animals that are in the north already that are going to go more north more north, you're going to see like polar bears and Arctic foxes and all these things. When it comes winter, they're going more north instead of south. Why would that be? Well, it would be because it's not colder in the more north. It's warmer in the more north, because the more north means going into the inner earth. And along with this, there's a lot of tropical plants of a lot of different species of plants that are even unknown to botanists that they're finding in the northern regions. And why would they be way up there? There's all kinds of driftwood and stuff that's indicating tropical trees and different tropical plants. So there's a constant flow of all kinds of driftwood and plants and all this stuff that if there is no land up there, then where would that be coming from? What's coming from the inner earth. All right, so let's get on with this now. The theory of concentric spheres. Now, this is going to be a series of videos. I don't know how much I'm going to get through in each video, but it's going to be a series and it's very intricate. The way that it is written is very precise, and I think that the author makes very good sense in this writing. So, according to this theory, the Earth is globular, hollow, and open at the poles. The diameter of the northern opening is about 2,000 miles, or 4,000 miles from outside to outside. The south opening is somewhat larger. The planes of these openings are parallel to each other, but form an angle of 12 degrees with the equator, so that the highest part of the north plane is directly opposite the lowest part of the south plane. The shell of the Earth is about 1,000 miles thick, and the edges of this shell at the openings are called verges. So that's important. We're going to talk a lot about verges. So let me repeat that. The shell of the Earth is about 1,000 miles thick. Okay? And this is the center of gravity is in the center of that 1,000 miles. And the edges of this shell at the openings are called verges and measure from the regular concavity within to the regular convexity without, about 1,500 miles. The verges occupy about 25 degrees, and if delineated on a map would show only the outer half of the verge, while all above or farther from the equator, both north and south, would lie upon the apex within the verge. All the polar regions upon the present map would be out of sight. The meridian lines extend at right angles from the equator to the outer edges of the verges, and then wind around along the surface of the verges, terminating at the points directly under the highest parts of the verges both north and south. The line which marks the location of the apex of the northern verge begins at a point in Lapland about 68 degrees north and 20 degrees east from London on a meridian traversing Spitsbergen, whence it passes southwest across the Atlantic Ocean and the southern part of Greenland, through Hudson's Bay and over the continent to the Pacific near Cook's Inlet. Thence across the Fox Islands to a point about 56 degrees north and 160 degrees west, nearly south of Bering's Straits. Then it passes over the Pacific, crossing the south part of Kamchatka, continuing northwest through Siberia, entering Europe across the Ural Mountains in a latitude about 58 degrees north, and passing near the Arctic coast over the mouth of the White Sea to the point of starting. Captain Sims collated with the great labor many isolated facts from his own researches and from the accounts of Ross, Howe, Perry, Mackenzie, and others who had by sea and land explored the polar regions, while similar proofs have been drawn from later explorations since the promulgation of the theory in 1829. The explorers who furnish facts for the support of this theory seem, none of them, to have the remotest conjecture of it. The facts are admitted, and it cannot be urged against its author that he has marshaled in its support fictitious premises. His arguments drawn from the facts may be erroneous, yet it is true that many of them which have not as yet been otherwise satisfactorily explained are easily accounted for upon his theory. There is a remarkable difference of climate under different meridians upon the same parallel of latitude. It is known that the climate of the eastern coast of North America is much colder than that of Western Europe in the same latitude. The notion that this diversity is produced by the proximity of the ocean or of ranges of mountains is unsatisfactory. For countries similar in these respects, in the same latitude, have a great diversity of climate. A theory which would explain the mild climate of France and England from these causes would not suit the case of New York and New England, and the cold regions around the Gulf of St. Lawrence south of 59 degrees north latitude. The topography of these sections of country is similar, and yet England and France have a mild and genial climate, while New England and Newfoundland are cold and bleak in the winter. Labrador, not so far north as Great Britain, is as cold and bleak as countries in Europe 20 degrees farther north. The heat and cold of the different climates are governed by their distance from the verge of the polar opening, and do not depend on their nearness to or remoteness from the equator. The natural climates are parallel to the planes of the polar openings, and cut the parallels of latitude at an angle of 12 degrees. When the sun is on the Tropic of Capricorn, the circle of greatest cold would be about 23.5 degrees south of the apparent verge. And when the sun is on the Tropic of Cancer, this circle would probably be just under the umbrage of the real verge. Hence it follows, if this doctrine be correct, that the climate of 40 degrees north latitude on plains of Missouri, in the western part of the continent of America, will be as cold in winter as the latitude of 50 or 52 degrees in Europe. And observation has fully confirmed such to be the fact. The Gulf Stream does not satisfactorily account for this diversity of climate between America and Europe. Sweeping along the coast of the United States northeastwardly from the Gulf of Mexico, with its vast volume of water, why should it not moderate the climate of North America as well as that of Eastern Europe? After nearing the banks of Newfoundland, it deflects eastwardly across the Atlantic about 2,000 miles and then sends off one branch northeastwardly along the coast of Norway and another down the western coast of Europe and Africa till it is lost in the southern Atlantic. Why then does not this mighty river of the ocean affect the climate of the United States as much or even more than that of France and England? It is claimed that this stream raises the climate of Europe 12 degrees or 15 degrees higher than that of the United States, whereas its effect should be greater upon the United States than upon Europe. The characteristics of the isothermal belts of both hemispheres throw some light upon this theory. The region of the verges must be the coldest parts of the Earth's surface, because, being more convex, they diverge instead of converging the sun's rays. The temperature, therefore, of any given part of the Earth's surface depends as well upon its proximity to the verge as to the equator. Europe, under the northern verge in the latitude 60 degrees north, would have the same climate with a place 70 degrees west longitude, some 6 degrees farther south, and at 160 degrees west longitude, the climate would be some 12 degrees colder than that of England. This would be true as a general rule, subject, however, to many local exceptions arising from the elevation and direction of mountain ranges, or the proximity of the ocean or large bodies of water, or from other causes. Paris, 49 degrees north, is about the same distance from the verge as Washington in latitude 30 degrees north, and their climate is nearly alike. Thus, while this theory does not explain all the phenomena of climate differences as indicated by the isothermal belts, it affords a general rule for explaining why the climate of Europe is milder than that of North America. The isothermal line of 32 degrees of Fahrenheit, which marks the southern limit of frozen ground, as laid down on climatic charts, corresponds very nearly with the location of the northern verge. The theory of ocean currents will not explain these climatic differences upon the Earth's surface. If, for instance, the Gulf Stream, having traversed the Atlantic battling with the cold waters of Baffin's Bay and the icebergs which are drifted out of the Arctic Ocean, so modifies the climate of Western Europe, why should not the Brazilian current flowing southwardly along the east coast of South America produce the same effect upon Patagonia? The Antarctic currents sweeping past Cape Horn and uniting with this warm Brazilian current flow eastwardly across the South Atlantic Ocean, round the Cape of Good Hope into the Indian Ocean. While these Antarctic currents might lower the temperature of the west coast of Patagonia, it will not be pretended that they would in like manner affect the east coast of this bleak region, or so counteract the effect of warm Brazilian current flowing down along the eastern coast of South America as to produce the cold climate of eastern Patagonia. Okay, I'm going to stop here as a part 1, and I will continue on with part 2 about the Sims theory of concentric spheres.